Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Well, welcome everybody to today's show. My name is Mark Kohler, yours truly. Thank you for listening in. We've already got a lot of people on the line and listening on the web. I apologize for being a few seconds late here. I dialed the wrong number. I called in the guest number like many of you, and I'm just sitting there going, hey, when's this going to start? So I had my studio window all set up here, ready to take calls and talk with our experts today, and just realized I was dialed into the wrong number. So I'm sure I caused some frantic for my studio assistant there, Lisa Owens. She's awesome. She's kind of running the studios. As you guys call in, she's the one that picks up the line. So anyway, we're off and running. This is going to be a fantastic show, and I already know this is going to be a show listened to frequently throughout this year on iTunes and through Blog Talk Radio. So I want to welcome many of you that may be listening to this late at night. For those that haven't listened to my podcast, or I shouldn't say podcast, this is live. This is a radio show. This isn't a podcast. I guess it is after the fact. But we're here live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And, of course, if you're on my newsletter, you're getting the links on how to call in and listen in. But I'm here every week talking about tax and legal strategies, ways to build wealth, protect it, just better live the American dream. We have just phenomenal listeners, support, and followers and clients from around the country, and I want to thank many of you for spreading the word and letting people know that we're here. I've had a terrestrial-based radio show, meaning land-based radio show, but you only can cover who's got their AM radio on at the given moment. Rarely is it recorded and rebroadcast. So we're on internet radio now at blogtalkradio.com. And if you go to Blog Talk Radio and just type in my name and search, you'll see the show come up. And please like the show. Click the button and like us and follow us on Blog Talk. It helps us get a little more traction with Blog Talk. And for those that are listening live, you can always call in with a question or comment. Today we got a lot on the agenda, so I don't know if we'll be taking live callers. Probably not today. Last week was open forum. Oftentimes we have special guests from around the country that have written books or best-selling authors, experts, educators, where we can take some live calls. But today's show is going to rock. It is Real Estate 2012. Where do I buy? How do I buy? Is it still good to buy real estate? What am I doing with real estate? And that's our show theme today. I've got, like I said, I've got 4 experts from different areas of the background and from around the country. They're going to come on the show. We've already got several on the line already that I'm so grateful that we're able to find some time to come on the show and talk about what they're doing in real estate. And I think it's going to be a huge benefit to you, the listener. So today we probably won't be taking calls, taking comments, but we do have a chat line, chat window. And so for those of you that are listening live, you can make a comment on the chat window, and I'll be watching that. I'm not skilled enough to run the show and do Twitter and Facebook at the same time. Maybe someday, but not right now. So if you have a comment, you'll want to just get on the live chat line there at Blog Talk Radio and listen on your computer. And if you're listening from your phone, driving around, grabbing a burger at Wendy's, whatever, welcome. Okay, well, we're going to just dive into this. I am so excited about today's show because we've got a lot to cover on real estate investing. And I wanted to just bring up, we usually have an expert call in from our office, and we're going to jump into that real quick and cover a little legal tip from Matt Sorensen. And hopefully he can tailor it to real estate a little bit here. I'm not sure what topic he's got today. Many of you know Matt Sorensen, the managing partner back in the home office of Cedar City, Utah for J Kohler, Ostermuller, and Sorensen. Matt, are you on the line?
I'm here, Mark.
Well,
we also call it KKOS lawyers now, just so you know.
Did I say KKO? Was that a Freudian slip?
No, but we're going to do like a swear jar in the office for any time someone says KKO, and then, we'll have a drawing at like staff meeting and split the, give out the money with whoever draws out. But
I like it. Many of you may not. I like it. Many of you may not know our home office, where all the work really gets done with our incredible team of paralegals, and in the tax team, the Dustin Johnson, Liddell Air, and all the accountants are back in Cedar City, Utah, kind of our own little India, southern Utah. Lee Chen and I are out here in Southern California, running kind of a satellite office in Orange County. And so tonight I hit the road. I'll be in Cedar City the next 2 days. I go every 3 or 4 weeks and hang out with the team. And so, Matt, I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Hopefully I won't have to throw anything in the swear jar.
All right, we'll be watching and listening.
Cool. Well, you know the theme of today's show is real estate. It was packed with real estate topics in the newsletter. Do you have a legal tip for us that might be real estate related here for us?
Well, I wasn't going to go with the real estate tip when you kind of gave me a little fair warning, though, before I jumped on, so I thought of a real estate-related tip. And it really came from some news I've been reading and a call I had with a client a couple weeks ago. And that is, there's been a lot of clearing out, at least for a lot of our clients, of short sales, foreclosures, and stuff like that. And I think there's starting to get a lot of bank inventory out there in the market. But if you're in the position where you've got to make the decision of, do I hold on to the property, do I let it go for short sale, or do I let it just go into foreclosure, particularly if you're going to make the short sale option and try that, I think now is the time you've got to start acting on that. Because what we're going to be seeing here, and banks are starting to indicate this, is we're not going to be doing short sales forever. And while banks are still operating and have short sale apartments, and they're still processing them, and it's now time to make that decision and decide, am I going to hold on to this property? If you've held on this long, and you're underwater, you might be willing to keep on holding on longer because it's been a few years since the market has already turned. But I just want to give a tip that those holding on to properties that they do want to short sell at some point in time, you probably got to start moving now, because there is significant risk that in the future banks aren't going to be willing to cooperate so much in short sales, and if they are, they're going to make you pay the difference at closing, which really isn't a short sell, or they're going to make you pay it to them later through a note, which also in my mind is really not a short sell.
Well, excuse me. I think that's an excellent point. And Matt, many of you have already seen on the newsletter on a regular basis, we've talked about the problem property matrix, what to do with a problem property. And so some of you that, and this relates to today's show, because some of you may be a little skeptical of getting back into the real estate market in 2012. What type of real estate should I be getting into? And some of you maybe got beat up with a bad property over the last 4 years. And I know I did. I had one and a half dogs, one that I ended up keeping, but I had a dog on my books too. And we all went, anybody that was in real estate had that experience. And so what to do with those problem properties is a common issue, and I know Matt and I consult with clients once a week, if not 2 or 3 times a week, talking about what their options are and which way is the best way to go. Is the cash flow strong enough to keep it? Is the negative equity so bad I should just dump it? So, Matt, great tip. I know you talk with clients a lot about that topic.
Yeah, and I think just, there was some news in the last couple of weeks about certain lenders indicating short sales aren't going to be here forever, and I think they're trying to start I don't know if they want more people trying short sales or what message they're trying to send, but and I think that's typical when any market recovers. You're going to start seeing that banks are just going to feel like the only ones left are people that can pay for them. They're paid for them long enough, so why are we going to cut deals on short sales? So I think it's time to act if you are going to do that, and if you're hoping to see if a bank's going to cut you a deal on a short sale, you might want to start moving that direction. That's the only tip I got. Obviously, there's lots of stuff that goes into deciding whether to short sell a property that Mark mentioned, and it varies by state to state about whether you have to worry about deficiency judgments or not, and that goes into the equation. So contact us. We can help walk you through that maze. And also there's a lot of great resources on our website too, which we have the Client Resource Center up now on the new website, which has got a great amount of newsletter articles, e-seminar video type things going over this very topic.
I like it. Well, Matt, thanks so much for jumping on the show. We appreciate it. Great little tip there, and we'll be talking to you later. Appreciate you coming on here. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, now I wanted to highlight real quick here for anybody, again, here's the tone of the show, is that why real estate? Is it a good time to get in real estate? From a tax and legal standpoint, I want to hit several points here before I bring on our first expert. First of all, I'm not an investment advisor. I don't tell you buy here, sell there type of thing. All I know is this. I've got a lot of clients that are wealthy, that are doing well financially in their specific trade or skill or W-2, corporate job or whatever, but I've seen patterns. And my successful clients that are continuing to create cash flow and build wealth so they can retire on their timetable and not someone else's, or maybe not at all, those successful clients buy real estate. Now, typically they have some sort of rental portfolio, and sometimes they're also in the short-term real estate market of fix and flips, rehabs, wholesale, short sales, that sort of scenario sometimes. But all of my successful clients have a rental property portfolio. So in today's newsletter, I hit a couple of points of why real estate, and I wanted to hit a couple of those points quickly here to set a tone for the show. And I'll be very brief because we've got some excellent, again, guests coming on the show with some of their strategies and where to buy. But here's my point. Please put your guard down. There are 4 benefits to rental real estate that I talk about all the time. Many of you have heard them. I'm just going to say them quickly. You can read them in the newsletter. But that is appreciation, which we don't buy for appreciation, but we know it'll be there. Mortgage reduction, because the tenant is going to pay our mortgage for us through rent, and we're going to buy properties that at least cash flow. We're going to get tax benefits that carry forward, and if yourself or your spouse is a real estate professional or your income's low enough, you're going to get flow-through losses immediately. And number 4, you're going to create cash flow. And 99% of the time, that cash flow is tax-free. Because even if you're not having flow-through losses, those losses are going to be eating up the tax cost of that cash flow. So I have clients with rental portfolios creating tax-free cash flow constantly, every day. I have rentals myself that are creating tax-free cash flow. That's very doable. That's not unrealistic. Now here's another major reason why I want all of my clients to be thinking about rental real estate. It is a forced retirement plan. A forced retirement plan. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If you're an American, a red-blooded American, apple pie eating, 4th of July American, it is so hard to save. We suck at saving. If many of you listening have probably tried to put $50 in your IRA every month or $500 in your IRA every month, if you're that blessed, we are terrible at this. We're consumers. Everybody in the world knows that America is a consumption country. That's what we do. We consume, consume, consume. But when you buy a rental property, you're buckling down. You're buying something that's very hard to get rid of, and you're emotionally attached to these rental properties. When you buy a rental property, you're signing up for an investment strategy that really is more dedicated, and it's easier to stay committed than trying to put money in a retirement plan every month. That's why I suggest to all my clients, buy 1 rental property a year, and you can build a portfolio where those rental properties will create future wealth almost at their own pace, out of sight, out of mind, where that cash flow can be paying down mortgages and growing inside your portfolio. And it's so much more powerful dollar for dollar than the stock market. And I'm not saying you don't have a stock market portfolio, but add real estate to the mix. So there's my sales pitch. That's what I want everybody to be thinking about, is why I'm talking about this on today's show, why I'm talking about it this year. And again, I want to roll out some experts here. One more thought. When you buy real estate from a tax and legal standpoint, if you're buying rentals, and I give 10 steps in my newsletter. I won't go through those 10. I'm going to read them off. I'm just going to read these off, just so for some of you that don't have the newsletter in front of you, you may be listening to this after the fact, you never got the newsletter. I want to read these 10 steps to buying a rental property. and why. We've already covered why, but why these are so important is because many of you that maybe don't own a rental property or bought rental properties in the past are gun shy. You're wondering, well, Mark, what are you seeing your clients do? What are you recommending? Let me give you these 10 steps real quick. Number one, make a goal. Make a goal that you're going to buy one rental property this year. Make a goal that you're going to have 5 or 10 rental properties 5 or 10 years from now. It's got to have a deadline, and it's got to be written down and manageable. Number two, start shopping. Always be looking for a rental. Have brokers and realtors in separate parts of the country that are keeping their eyes open for you and sending you emails. Be getting on those lists of rental property profiles that come up. Number three, get a spreadsheet. Develop a spreadsheet, even if you have to buy one or create your own, to analyze your properties. You should have a specific criteria to analyze cash flow, appreciation rates, property taxes, insurance. What are those costs that you're going to look at when you analyze a rental property? Get familiar with it. Be plugging in a lot of different rental property, which is number four. Look at lots of rental property. Take your time. There's no rush. There's always a rental property for sale. And I've said this time and time again. You're not buying a story. You're not buying a property. You're buying numbers. And Chris Albin, one of our experts today, will be talking about that. You're buying numbers. Number five, make an offer and start due diligence. Make an offer on an occasion. You have contingencies so that you can get out. You get looking. Start kicking tires. Jump on a Southwest airline flight and get out and look at your property. Be careful of turnkey property. Number six, do more due diligence. So many people don't do enough due diligence. And it's so important that you not rely on just a one-sheet turnkey representative that says, oh, this is a no-brainer. You want to be doing your own due diligence. I've seen it time and time again where people get taken advantage of or buy a dumb rental property because they didn't do enough due diligence. Number seven, open an escrow. And then that's when you start the LLC process. That's when you're getting close to your contingencies being met. Opening escrow is something that many of you that haven't bought a rental property before may not be familiar with, but that's where the escrow company is going to start gathering documents, setting up timelines. Your earnest money is going to go there, and you can start forming an LLC. Don't open an LLC until you at least have escrow open and your contingencies are over with. Number eight, close and deed the property to an LLC. Every time you have a rental property, you need to have some sort of LLC in the mix. Now, you might have one LLC registered in 4 states and have 10 properties in it. That's fine. At least have something. You don't always have to have a corporation or LLC to operate your business, but you should have an LLC to hold rentals. Number 9, track your expenses. Keep track of your expenses. You need to be tracking your expenses from start to finish. What's being spent in your startup, in your shopping, your home office, cell phone, travel, dining, entertainment. You guys have heard me talk about it over and over again. Too many people do not keep track of their expenses in this process, and these are expenses and write-offs that are going to pay off down the road. And number 10, manage the property, the tenant, and your property manager. Be involved. Regularly visit your rentals. Buy rentals where you travel. You're managing a property manager. Don't just turn a blind eye. They can create problems for you too, or they can be your best friend. There's my 10. I hope that helps. I wanted to create some legal and tax concepts here, some why, and give you some background. I hope that that was helpful. Now, I want to jump over to our first expert of 4 different people I want to bring on the show today. We're going to move fairly quickly through our experts. I'm going to give you their contact information so you can reach out to them individually if you like. This show is just, I'm already feeling power-packed already, and hopefully changing the lives of some of you. Woo! I need to take a breath here. I drank my Mountain Dew this morning. And it paid off. Woo! Okay. I hope many of you are buckled up and ready for this, because this is just it's a race sometimes to get through these topics. All right. Now I want to bring out Deneen Manasios, and I always butcher her last name. I'm sorry, Deneen. Deneen is. Thanks, Deneen. You have to help us. Tell us how to pronounce your last name again.
Manasiotis.
Manasiotis. I was close. Deneen is, now, the reason I'm bringing out Deneen, and every one of our experts has a different background, Deneen is living in Phoenix. She is a good friend, a client, a student, and I'm also a student of hers and a client of hers. She is a property manager and manages one of my properties. She's also a broker down there. She's been on a radio show, the Gary Lawrence live radio show, for 2 years. She is been trained in real estate. She invests in real estate on a daily basis. And I wanted to bring her on the show to let us know what's going on in Phoenix, what she's doing right now, what she's seeing in the rental property market, and give us some tips from her little area of the world. Deneen, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be on the show, and it's really an honor to share what's going on in the real estate market. So I just want to thank you. And I also have to say, you mentioned Chris Albin's out there going to be on the show today as well. For anybody listening, both Mark Kohler and Chris Albin have been essential in my husband Pete and I being successful in real estate investing and in business. And I have the utmost respect for both of you guys and what you guys do over there at KKOS. So, there's just so many things that you guys do to help small businesses like myself and what my husband do in real estate investing. We're also realtors. And you guys have helped us set up a financial platform that is taking us from not knowing much to being able to say that we understand S Corps more today than we ever have. LLCs.
Okay, I got to cut you off. Yay, you are so cool.
Yeah,
don't worry about it. You don't need to edify me on the show. You're so awesome, and thank you for those compliments. Hey, let's get into it here. I have been telling people for, no pun intended, that Arizona's heating up. What are you seeing in the Phoenix area? First of all, we're going to be talking to Jason Hartman here on the show shortly, who does a property analysis nationwide. He's been amazing. We're going to hear from him what markets he thinks are hotter and which ones are not. But tell us what's going on in Phoenix first.
A lot's going on in Phoenix. It's definitely a great place to buy. We're like number 7, I believe, out there as to places to go and put your money into. You're seeing the single-family residential rentals just heating up. I know that back in 2010, there were about 22,000 signed leases a month for rentals, and now in 2011, that's gone up to almost 26,000. And that's happening because you're seeing more and more people having to short sell their homes, which is what you started the whole radio show with. And I think it was about just a little over 46,000 homes in Arizona went back to the auction or the trustee sale. So 46,000 homes last year alone went into going back as an REO or a bank-owned home and then went off to the auction. And then there were about 19,000 homes in Phoenix that were sold short sale. So the market's here. There's properties out there to buy, and it's a great time to buy because although prices are kind of inching up here and there, they're bumping up and bumping down, you can get properties and definitely cash flow here. Definitely.
That's the cool part of what I just wanted to highlight here. And like I said, we're going to talk about a variety of markets in the U.S. today. But I wanted to have someone on the phone today on the show that's on the ground doing it and living it. And I bought my last rental property with Deneen for $20,000, a little one-bedroom condo down in Phoenix. It rents out for $550 a month between property taxes and property management. I'm still cash flowing over $400 a month. And there are these bank-owned properties that are one man's loss. They can be your gain down in Phoenix. I think it's just incredible. Tell me some tips. Give us a tip, Deneen. What are you doing as a strategy or recommending as a strategy to your clients and investors in the Phoenix area or nationwide?
Well, when we first got involved in investing and went through education and all that, we jumped in 2009 through 2011, and we did 32 fix and flips. And we made a great chunk of change, and I love that market. But in 2011, things started to shift for us, and where our investors that we work with were willing to put money out. So we decided we're going to work this, and we're going to start picking up rentals. And so one of the tips you said is to make a goal to buy one rental property a year. We were fortunate last year to pick up 6, and we did it through private loans that we have with different investors that are willing to loan us money that they have and do it at a decent rate. And so we have one property, Mark, I got to tell you, it's a property that we own in Glendale. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's just shy of 1,490 square feet. I got to tell you, we have it on Section 8. We get a rent of $10.84. Our net cash flow after water, city taxes, HOA, and insurance, and our debt service is $750 a month. We bought that property, Mark, for $23,000. We put $5,000 of sweat equity into it, and we are cash flowing on that property, like I said, $750 a month. So, and then there's another one we picked up.
Now, hold on, before you get
year.
going. Now, I'm going to cut you off here just because of our time constraints. I wanted you to share one deal. That is freaking amazing. You are awesome, and I know I warned you that I would maybe keep it short today because I've got.
Yeah, that's fine.
You are so cool, though. Okay,
Thank you.
Deneen, if people, I know you've got deals like this all the time you're helping people with. This is not an infomercial today for Deneen. It's not. But if you do want to get a hold of Deneen, you're interested in the Arizona market, I want you to at least throw out your phone number. And again, we're going to be talking about other markets today with other experts. But just so it's out there, Deneen, what's your phone number if people want to give you a call?
Oh, thanks so much, Mark. It's 623-572-3078.
Okay, repeat it one more time.
Yeah, 623-572-3078, and our website's homesmartinvesting.com.
homesmartinvesting.com. Okay.
Thank you,
Deneen,
Mark.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thanks for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it. All right. You rock. Okay, now we're going to jump over to another investor. Now we're going to, I've mentioned already that Chris Albin is joining us on the show, an educator around the country. He's phenomenal out of Chicago. We're having Jason Hartman, who's already on the line too. He's coming on the show here shortly. He beat Chris to the call, so I'm going to bring on probably Chris last here and Jason third. Jason is out of Orange County, California, runs Platinum Property Investor Network. Incredible man. He's coming on the show here. But I want to jump over to another strategy and type of investor. This is Kendall Stock coming on the line. Kendall, a great friend and client again. He runs Sage Investments, LLC. Kendall, first I'm going to just bring him out. Kendall, welcome to the show. Are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having us.
Thanks. I'm just so flattered that you and our other guests today could find the time to come on the show today. It is an honor, and thank you. Let me introduce Kendall a little better. He lives in the Inland Empire of California. Many of you may not know where that's at. It's kind of the valley. If you watched Valley Girl back in the day, he's in the valley. No, so he's out there over off I-15, if you will, in the San Bernardino and South area, kind of between that and San Diego. And why I wanted why I wanted Kendall on the show here today is that Kendall is out working with investors. He is more of a, I want to say, and I don't want to say the word promoter. That's not what it's about. But he is an investor specialist. He helps clients use their IRA money, and he also is doing deals with people. He's doing it ethically and honestly. He's using great strategies of legal structures. He's doing fix and flips and rehabs, which to a lot of people may not think are a great strategy in today's market. But I want to talk about that strategy as a whole and bring Kendall out to talk about it. Kendall, is it for real? You really are doing rehabs and making money in 2012?
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks again for the introduction. Yeah, absolutely. Not only through 2012, but 2010, 2011. It's been just a quick aside, so people are aware of what kind of returns we're talking about here. You know, in 2011, we did 19 properties. We averaged, just an average. It's not a home run, but it's a good solid base hit. Just over $22,000 per deal. And, you know, that yields to our investor almost a 20% rate of return. So when you're talking about being able to do deals without using your money, without using your credit, absolutely. We're out there doing it every day. And, you know, just like you talked about, I want to just hit on something you talked about earlier. You said that as Americans, we suck at saving. And so what we do with our deals is, like you said, we use our people's IRAs and 401ks, and we force them to save. And our clients currently, you know, we're forcing them to save at about a 20% rate of return, which is just knocking the cover off the ball compared to any other investment they can get out there.
I love it. And I can't say enough about what you're doing, and your partner Darren as well. I need to give him a shout out. He's awesome. And let's talk strategy for a minute. when you're doing rehabs, what would you give us maybe some of the pitfalls first, and then I'd like to have you tell us some of the things that you're looking for to find that diamond in the rough.
Okay. First of all, the pitfall is we've all heard in real estate, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. The biggest thing you've got to do is you've got to know your model. You've got to get clear on one model and stick to it. As you can imagine, as we do deals, we have a lot of people, as they know we're out in the field doing real estate, they start bringing us short sales and they bring us REOs. Well, my business partner, Darren Davis, and I, we have one strategy. We buy at trustee sales, we buy at the auction, and we stick to that strategy. And you mentioned earlier also, you said, get a spreadsheet to analyze your properties. That in the beginning, I was always looking for somebody to all right, Mark says find a spreadsheet. Where can I find one? And I learned the best thing you can do is don't find one. Go out and create one. Use your brain. Figure out what numbers you need to analyze, and then make sure you're buying the property below market value. Figure out what numbers work best for you. One of the things that we always do is we buy with a set parameter. We have our model. We don't stray from that model. We've been outbid on hundreds of properties by just $100, because if we went $100 more, it would fall outside the realm of our model. So definitely stick to a model. And then as far as pitfalls, don't over improve a property. If there's one piece of advice I can give to people, is know your market. Understand that not every neighborhood needs granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Some neighborhoods just need a really good cleaning, and you can put it right back on the market. And that is, we've had so many investors come to us that have tried to do our business model, and unfortunately for them, they don't succeed because they go in and they rehab this thing to the point that they were moving in it themselves.
That's a great point. I just wanted to interject that, Kendall. I've seen that so many times, too, that when you're doing that rehab, it's not for you to live in it. It's what your tenant or your buyer is going to expect, and they're going to do their own thing. So great comment. Now, are you seeing rehabs work around the country? Do you think it's doable around the country? You're doing it in California, which most people, and I know Jason's going to come on the show here shortly and tell us you're crazy sometimes to buy in Southern California. It's so hard to have a margin, but you're doing it. Is it possible around the country? What's your feel with rehabs everywhere?
I believe it's possible everywhere. We've focused primarily on Southern California, which it is crazy. People think you're nuts. How can you buy in Southern California? Well, we're doing it in the very worst real estate economy in some people's perspective, when we've just got everything stacked against us, and we've been able to create a stellar company. We've moved over $10 million of property. Absolutely, this can be done in any market. As long as you understand what your numbers are, as long as you buy low, sell high, don't over-improve the property, it absolutely can be done in every market. You've just got to stick with it long enough, figure it out. You're going to have bumps and bruises. It's still investing. Not every deal goes fantastic, but overall, we're always able to yield a fantastic return. So absolutely, if we can do it in California, it can be done anywhere. That's my honest feeling.
Okay, well, I'm just going to wrap this up with a final comment, and want you to give out your contact. Contact info here is that one thing that Kendall and Darren have been doing is they partner properly from a legal perspective. They're not setting up private placements. They're not taking people's money and making outrageous promises. From a legal standpoint, I want to throw this out. If you're out there want to do rehabs and fix and flips with other people's money, the process is setting up an LLC in a partnership scenario, using IRA or 401k money from your investor, keeping them involved in the process, making decisions with them, and treating it as a partnership. And they have set up, with Kendall and Darren have set up multiple LLCs with multiple investors through a partnership format rather than a PPM type format. And I think that's a wise move for many of you that are out there thinking about it. Folks, if you're interested in investing with Kendall or just getting some coaching from him too on this strategy, Kendall, is it okay? Do you mind giving out your phone number or an email, or however you'd like, if you want people to contact you?
Absolutely. My phone number is 949-903-3967. 949-903-3967. And my email address is Kendall, Kendall, sageinvestingllc.com.
All right, Kendall at sageinvestingllc.com. Kendall, thanks again for coming on the show and sharing that advice, and we appreciate it. You're a good man. Good luck this year.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having fun.
Thank you. All right, now I want to jump over to Jason Hartman here. We've still got time to cover some good stuff. As I already mentioned, Jason Hartman out of Orange County, California, runs Platinum Property Investor Network. He does education. He's got products. He's a broker. He owns real estate himself. This guy's got it all going on. JasonHartman.com. You can see a picture of him right there if you're on your web. He's really a fantastic educator and investor. We've done whole shows with Jason, so I appreciate him just coming on for a few minutes today. Jason, are you on the line?
Yes, Mark. How are you?
Good. Jason, I know you're calling from out of state, too. Thank you so much for finding a few minutes to get on the show.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Actually, it's funny, Mark, because you mentioned my company is in Orange County, California. We're actually located in Irvine. However, I recently moved, as you know, a few months back, out of the Socialist Republic of California to live in the greater Phoenix area in Arizona, and I love it.
That's right.
Thinking from a nationwide perspective is a great way to go. And great job on your radio show, by the way. What an awesome time to be investing. And I got to tell you, there are just so many opportunities around the nation. It's a great time out there, as you know.
It is. It is phenomenal. Now, there's so much we could cover with you, Jason, and I want for our guests, our listeners, to get some real quality information, not just a rah session. So the first question I want to ask, and let me set the stage here. My listeners know that Jason Hartman, for the last 7-8 years, when the market was hot and when the market was not, he was producing a nationwide property profile. He's got a good name for it here, and I'm sure he'll talk more about it. But that's what I'd like you to mention, Jason, is this analysis that you do nationwide, where you determine what markets you recommend to your investors and which ones you don't. We'd love to hear what markets you think are hot, which ones you're not, how people can get a hold of this analysis that's 2 inches thick. It's amazing. Tell us about this analysis. What type of things do you analyze in it, too?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. You know, every year we publish an income property forecast. Now, I want to make a differentiation there. It is not a real estate forecast because real estate is a bit of a misnomer. We like income property, the buy and hold strategy for investing, where you obtain cash flow from the properties. Okay, and the reason you have all these forecasts and predictions out there, and you have the Case-Shiller Index, which only profiles 20 out of 400 markets, it's ridiculous that, you know, all of the news media with a single soundbite looks at something that only covers 5% of the nation's real estate markets, and 75% of that 5% are markets that I wouldn't recommend because they are high land value markets. We like low land value markets where the prices of income property are very low, but in proportion, the rents are very high. So our investors can experience just fantastic returns from their properties. See, the thing most people really don't understand about real estate or really income property is that it is not about necessarily just, you know, buy low, sell high. It's a multi-dimensional asset class. And as such, there are several dimensions you need to consider. One, of course, is price. The second, of course, is income or cash flow. The third being leverage. The fourth being tax benefits, and I know you talk about tax benefits all the time with your specialty. And then another thing we call, and this is not the same as appreciation, I just want to differentiate it for your listeners, Mark, and that is what we call regression to replacement cost. Because the markets we recommend now, people are buying the property, they're getting the land for free, okay? So they don't pay anything for land at all. And then they're buying the commodities, the construction materials, the ingredients that build those houses and those apartment buildings for far less than their actual cost today. In fact, you could not build the properties that our clients are buying for even, you know, 1/2 the cost some of the time, because our investors will buy these properties for as low as 30 cents on the dollar. So
it's great.
just
Now,
phenomenal opportunities,
And I love your analysis, and you go through in that analysis. I recommend everybody try to download and purchase from Jason's website. It really analyzes all these different factors, and he breaks it down. And there's so much information there. But let's cut to the chase too here. Give us maybe 2 or 3 markets just briefly that you like right now, and 2 or 3 markets that you don't.
Yeah, well, it's easy to say markets I don't like because there are any markets with high land value. So, most of the state of California is out. Your last guest, though, is doing Inland Empire properties. And if you're going to be in California, that's where I'd be, okay? So I just want to say that. And we have looked at that, and I want to talk to Kendall about what he's doing and learn more after the show. But I picked actually 4 markets out, given that we have time. One being Atlanta, Georgia, another one being Dallas, Texas, another one being Phoenix, Arizona, and then a newer market for us, St. Louis, Missouri, which we're just doing great in right now. And,
okay, those are 4 you like. So Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix, and
Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix, and St. Louis.
Okay.
And there are others that we like, but we don't have much time on the call, so I just thought I'd profile these 4 real quickly for you.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Well, give us an example of one of those, why you like, for example, St. Louis. What would be something you would look at and why St. Louis is attractive to you?
Low land values and phenomenal cash flow, okay? And let me just tell you what we go through, Mark. We go through something we call an ROI build. ROI meaning return on investment. And I happen to just have the Atlanta one on my screen now, so maybe I'll share that one with your listeners just so they understand how we create this. We are projecting in 2012 that investors will receive, if they're selecting the right properties in the right submarkets of the greater Atlanta metro area, they will receive a return on investment of 27.5%. Now, here's how I come to that conclusion. Because, see, if you just look at CNN Money or one of these other prognosticators or predictions out there, it'll say, well, you're going to receive, 2%, 2.5% in Atlanta. But income property is a multidimensional asset class. So here's the ROI build for Atlanta very quickly. 27.5% total. We're looking at 13.6% of that return coming from cash flow. Rents are very good in relation to very low prices. Another 10.6% of it comes from leverage. Another 5.5% of it comes from regression to replacement cost. And appreciation actually negative 2.2%. Now that may sound like double talk. How do you make money by losing money? That's an example of how it works. You can buy a property and have it go down to 0, but if it's producing income for you, great. That's what we invest for, income. It's what Robert Kiyosaki talks about, the difference between being a cattle rancher, where you slaughter cattle to have hamburger, or being a dairy farmer where you keep milking the cow. Our philosophy is keep milking the cow and have the cash flow from the properties, and that's what we love.
Okay, I love it. Great. Now, and some of you that were hearing him go through, as Jason talked about the percentages and how they get to it, I know that may sound like gobbledygook and confusing. This is why I'd recommend you check out his property analysis report, and he breaks down how he comes to those figures, and you can start getting a feel of the markets and start getting that pattern down. One last question. So you said California is somewhere you're not too hip on. I want to ask, because everybody keeps asking me, what do you think about Vegas? Are you ready to go into Vegas yet?
You know what? It's so funny. Before you even said that, I knew you were going to ask. You were going to mention Las Vegas, because everybody keeps asking us about Las Vegas, and everybody keeps asking us about California too. We keep looking. We do not recommend Las Vegas quite yet. It's getting close. And if you're in the Inland Empire of California, we also think that is getting close. We thought we would be in both of those markets last year again. We have done them before. Again, I grew up in Southern California. I've lived there for decades, and sold a lot of real estate there, made a lot of money there. I just think it's about timing and cash flow, and we are very close to considering both of those markets. But not quite yet, because we've got a whole country to pick from, really a whole world to pick from, and I'd much rather be in Atlanta, St. Louis, Dallas, Phoenix, and many other markets we like Indianapolis, and so forth. So, the report is 82 pages long. Obviously, our time is very limited on your show today, but they can check out jasonhartman.com. That's jasonhartman.com for lots of free information. My podcast, I've had you on the show, Mark, and you've been an awesome guest. And we've got our Meet the Masters event coming up, and I know you are, again, our most coveted speaker at that event, Mark. And we will be having that at the Hyatt Regency in Irvine in March 25th, or 24th and 25th, and we look forward to having you speak then. You are the best speaker. You're so funny. You just, people learn so much better when they're laughing, You make the audience laugh.
I lull them into sleep. They think they're learning and they're really not. They're just watching Comedy Central, but no.
we can give you any segment of the day right after lunch when everybody's tired because they have food coma, and you wake them right up. It's just awesome. You bring down the room.
Thank you so much. Now, I want to throw you're so kind, but let me add one caveat, and then we're going to let you go. And I just wanted to say, when Jason says, this is my take on Jason's comments, is when he says, well, we don't like Inland Empire or we don't like Vegas. Again, Jason's model is income properties, and which is a huge model for my long-term wealthy clients, is they're building up that rental property portfolio. So when Kendall Stock gets on the phone, on the show early on and says, "Hey, that's a different model." That's right. And I loved how Kendall said, "We stick to our model. If we went outside of that model, we may fail, but we have our model." And so I think this is, again, a theme for all of us, is to find out what works best for us and then stick to it.
Yeah, fix and flips, that's a different business than long-term buy and hold income property. It's just a whole different thing.
It is. Well, Jason, again, you're phenomenal. You're wonderful. And I can't say enough. Folks, it's just easy. I'm just going to say go to jasonhartman.com, and you'll be able to get right to his all of his information, and that's Hartman, Hartman, even though it may sound like Hartman. It's Hartman, Hartman, jasonhartman.com. And, Jason, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mark. Keep up the good work.
You too. All right. Well, okay, now we have got plenty of time here for maybe this is the highlight of the show. I'm not going to say that because Jason and Kendall and Deneen did a fantastic job. But we're excited here to also have Chris Albin. And poor Chris, he was the last of my experts to call in, so that's maybe why he got pushed to the last of the show. But we've got plenty of time to get some input from Chris. Let me just introduce him. Chris, are you on the show?
Yes, I am. How are you, Mark?
Oh, man, what an honor that you'd find time to get on here. This is just phenomenal. What a great show this is turning out to be. At least
I'm humbled by your other guests. I mean, I love Deneen. She one time she gave me a ride in Phoenix from the airport to an event, an educational event, and it was one of the best conversations I had. I don't even know if it was from the airport or to the airport, but it was a great time. And Kendall and Jason are just rocking it out there. It's great. So I feel humbled being on the call.
Oh, no. Now, folks, wait till you hear the introduction. But no, Chris Albin, for those that don't know Chris, he has taught over 100 three-day trainings and even more than that of one-day trainings around the country. He owns, now, by the way, he grew up raised his family in the Illinois, greater Chicago area as a school teacher for many years. He's had an incredible career as an educator and teaching children in the middle or high school. Was it middle school or high school?
It was high school. High school English. Nothing to do with business.
Nothing to do with business. But now, during that same period, he bought a tremendous portfolio of rental property. He currently owns over 100 rental properties. 100 rental properties, and he was a high school English teacher. Folks, you can do it too, and he manages for clients over 200 rental properties. And in fact, I think you said in an email to me, you're closing on another property today during the show.
Right. That's it's one of those easy ones. You just send the documents to the trust company. It's an IRA. It's actually my two sons' IRAs are purchasing a property, and the paperwork's just being processed today as we speak.
Oh, wow. How exciting. Okay, now, Chris, for those that don't know Chris's expertise, again, a little different than Jason's and Deneen's and Kendall's, is Chris's forte is teaching people how to acquire real estate creatively. If you think that it's hard for you to afford to buy a rental, try being a school teacher in today's economy and finding even enough money to pay the bills, let alone to go out and build a portfolio of 100 rental properties. It is amazing. So Chris has come on the show before and talked about strategies of buying property with no money down or no credit in honest, ethical ways to get property in your portfolio that cash flows. So in our last few minutes, I'd like to, and we got more than a few, but here, 8 to 9, 10 minutes here, I'd like to get your take, Chris, on what you're doing in 2012. Is it still possible? Can people buy property with bad credit and no money?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, it's more possible now than ever, now that banks are afraid to lend money. I mean, it's safer for the bank to simply buy treasury products and keep people's savings at 0%, 1%, and so it's almost imperative that we get investors to go out there and start buying things creatively. Just because people can't borrow money and buy a house does not mean that there aren't the same number, if not more people, who need to sell their house. So if more people need to sell their house and fewer people can buy the house traditionally, that requires creative acquisition techniques.
Now, let's jump right to it. We're not going to worry so much about where. That was kind of the topic that Jason just helped us with. So I'd like to talk about strategy with you. If you wouldn't mind, please tell us maybe one of your top 1, 2, or 3 strategies, let's start with just one, of how a person with bad credit and very little capital could buy a property. What's the strategy? How do you find that property and make this transaction happen? In a nutshell, I mean.
Right, in a nutshell. I do want to kind of go back to what a couple of people said earlier. Kendall mentioned sticking to a model and the spreadsheet. One of the things I always say is never violate your numbers. You have to have a certain number that you have to be at or under for it to make sense. And if you violate that number, you're going to lose money. And that's where the people make the biggest mistake. So finding that number that you can buy the property at, even if you get creative financing, and that was the leverage part that Jason was talking about. Sometimes financing is a double-edged sword. It can, I mean, if I invest $10 in a $100,000 property and I make $20 at the end of the year, I made 100%, but I only made $20 or $10. So leverage can be a double-edged sword. So what we're talking about here is private leverage. And it works best in a place where you have a price point variance. So you have some markets that you can buy a house for $10,000, sell it for $30,000, but again, the spread there, the price point spread, is not as strong. So first of all, I would find a good market where you have good price point spread. And the strategy that I started with, because it's very easy to understand and it's very easy to it gives a comfort level to the seller, is the contract for deed. And the reason that it gives a comfort level to the seller is the property remains in the seller's name. So title remains vested with the seller. And so it's much easier to show the seller some benefits of receiving money every month, and they don't feel like they're giving up much.
Okay, contract for deed. Give us a definition of what that transaction typically looks like.
Yeah, and a contract for deed, you approach the seller, or the buyer would approach the seller, and the buyer would ask the seller to take a down payment, and in our case, as small a down payment as possible, and receive monthly payments. And once those monthly payments have been made, so maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, or there might be a balloon payment, once those payments have all been made, then the seller deeds the property to the buyer. Now, what we always ask for is the deed to be in escrow, and we want a title policy, or at least a title report at the time of the transaction. We don't want to do these on the tabletop at the kitchen table, even though you could. We want to protect ourselves better. I would rather have title insurance than a deed, frankly. And so so that's the transaction. We simply make payments, and then at the end of those payments, the seller deeds to us the property. But at the same time, we gain equity. We have an equitable interest in the property, and we have some security there.
And the seller would typically, if the seller is in the home, they move out, and you're able to put a renter in there, and that creates your arbitrage, where you've got the rent to cover the costs of the property, as well as to pay the seller their share. And if you do it right, you've got renters lined up to go into properties and sellers moving out, and you create a margin of cash flow without your credit.
Right, exactly. And I would say that I would never want the seller to remain in the property. Those are very dangerous things, because when you're making payments and the seller's still there, you're in a court of law, you're generally on an uphill battle there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And let me add one other thing, too. You want the deed in escrow. You also want that title policy, but you also want to record a memorandum of your contract. You don't necessarily want to record the contract, because in certain states, it may affect your property taxes, but it will always affect the offer of somebody who wants to buy the house from you later, because they will try to determine how much money you should make. So I would simply record a memorandum of the contract, but you need to record something, or the seller could sell it to somebody else without you even knowing.
Gotcha. Well, excellent. Now, and again, we've had Chris on our show before. We need to do it again. So just briefly here for another minute and a half, please tell us a second strategy, if you don't mind, of something that you would just tell people to look into, is if they're in this, trying to make this goal of buying a property this year.
Oh, well, I mean, the second strategy, again, look for properties that are free and clear and get the seller to carry back a mortgage. It's pretty easy to convince the seller to do a seller carryback mortgage, much like a contract for deed, except the seller deeds the property and takes the payments over time after the deed or after the property has transacted. So on the seller carryback mortgage, the seller then gets a fixed rate of return that's usually much higher than what they would expect in the current market situation. And again, it's pretty easy to show the seller the benefits of that.
I love it. In the deed contract, at the very beginning, the contract for sale that you talked about, of course, can be a subject to scenario or a seller financing scenario. It doesn't matter. I guess there's all sorts of variations on this play.
Absolutely, yeah. On the contract for deed, a lot of times that's subject to. On the seller carryback mortgage, if it were subject to, that seller mortgage would be in second position, and it complicates it a bit. There are other subject to strategies that work equally well. A lot of times if there's a mortgage, you don't necessarily want the seller involved anymore. But the two strategies we talked about, the contract for deed and the seller carryback mortgage, they look a lot alike. However, the transactional details are different, and the equity position tends to be a little bit different.
I love it. Well, Chris, again, we appreciate you. I know you didn't, so everybody doesn't feel bad for Chris. He didn't call in at the very beginning of the show. We didn't have to make him suffer through the whole show. But
I enjoyed the show.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. And how do people get a hold of you quickly? What's a phone number so they could maybe get some coaching from you or find out where you're speaking again next or whatever?
You can contact me, Chris, C-H-R-I-S, at homebuyerperspective.com. That's perspective, not prospective. So it's P-E-R. And telephone
Chris
number.
At homebuyerperspective.com.
Home buyers, multiple buyers, perspective.com.
Okay.
And telephone number would be 217-442-0143, and they might answer that a number of ways.
Okay, and I know Lisa's typing those up on the chat window right now. And folks, you can always email me, and I'll get their information out to you. Chris, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, Mark, for having me. It's been great.
You're awesome. Well, gosh, what a fast-paced show. Lots we covered. Please stay in touch. Send me an email. Go to my website, mark@markjkohler.com. Check us out. We'll be here next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Hope to see you then, and you guys have an awesome day. Keep living the dream. Don't give up, and get that one rental property this year. Don't give up. Stay focused. Get your model. Get your spreadsheet. Keep shopping. And we'll be here as your tax and legal team to help support you. We hope that you have an awesome 2012 and keep living the dream. See ya.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.
Dustin Johnson, Liddell Air, and all the accountants are back in Cedar City, Utah, kind of our own little India, southern Utah. Lee Chen and I are out here in Southern California running kind of a satellite office in Orange County. And so tonight I hit the road. I'll be in Cedar City the next 2 days. I go every 3 or 4 weeks and hang out with the team. And so, Matt, I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Hopefully I won't have to throw anything in the swear jar.
All right, we'll be watching and listening.
Cool. Well, you know the theme of today's show is real estate. It was packed with real estate topics in the newsletter. Do you have a legal tip for us that might be real estate related here for us?
Well, I wasn't going to go with the real estate tip when you kind of gave me a little fair warning though before I jumped on, so I thought of a real estate related tip, and it really came from some news I've been reading and a call I had with a client a couple weeks ago. And that is, there's been a lot of clearing out, at least for a lot of our clients, of short sales, foreclosures, and stuff like that. And I think from at 11 a.m. Pacific, and of course, if you're on my newsletter, you're getting the links on how to call in and listen in. But I'm here every week talking about tax and legal strategies, ways to build wealth, protect it, just better live the American dream. We have just phenomenal listeners, support, and followers and clients from around the country, and I want to thank many of you for spreading the word and letting people know that we're here. I've had a terrestrial-based radio show, meaning land-based radio show, but you only can cover who's got their AM radio on at the given moment. Rarely is it recorded and rebroadcast. So we're on internet radio now at blogtalkradio.com. And if you go to Blog Talk Radio and just type in my name and search, you'll see the show come up. And please like the show. Click the button and like us and follow us on Blog Talk. It helps us get a little more traction with Blog Talk. And for those that are listening live, you can always call in with a question or comment. Today we got a lot on the agenda, so I don't know if we'll be taking live callers. Probably not today. Last week was open forum. Oftentimes we have special guests from around the country that have written books.
Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Well, welcome everybody to today's show. My name is Mark Kohler, yours truly. Thank you for listening in. We've already got a lot of people on the line and listening on the web. I apologize for being a few seconds late here. I dialed the wrong number. I called in the guest number like many of you, and I'm just sitting there going, hey, when's this going to start? So I had my studio window all set up here, ready to take calls and talk with our experts today, and just realized I was dialed into the wrong number. So I'm sure I caused some frantic for my studio assistant there, Lisa Owens. She's awesome. She's kind of running the studios. As you guys call in, she's the one that picks up the line. So anyway, we're off and running. This is going to be a fantastic show, and I already know this is going to be a show listened to frequently throughout this year on iTunes and through Blog Talk Radio. So I want to welcome many of you that may be listening to this late at night. For those that haven't listened to my podcast, or I should say podcast, this is live. This is a radio show. This isn't a podcast. I guess it is after the fact. But we're here live every Tuesday, or best-selling authors, experts, educators, where we can take some live calls. But today's show is going to rock. It is Real Estate 2012. Where do I buy? How do I buy? Is it still good to buy real estate? What am I doing with real estate? And that's our show theme today. I've got, like I said, I've got 4 experts from different areas of the background and from around the country. They're going to come on the show. We've already got several on the line already that I'm so grateful that we're able to find some time to come on the show and talk about what they're doing in real estate. And I think it's going to be a huge benefit to you, the listener. So today we probably won't be taking calls, taking comments, but we do have a chat line, chat window. And so for those of you that are listening live, you can make a comment on the chat window, and I'll be watching that. I'm not skilled enough to run the show and do Twitter and Facebook at the same time. Maybe someday, but not right now. So if you have a comment, you'll want to just get on the live chat line there at Blog Talk Radio and listen on your computer. And if you're listening from your phone, driving around, grabbing a burger at Wendy's, whatever, welcome. Okay, well, we're going to just dive into this. I am so excited about today's show because we've got a lot to cover on real estate investing. And I wanted to just bring up, we usually have an expert call in from our office, and we're going to jump into that real quick and cover a little legal tip from Matt Sorensen. And hopefully he can tailor it to real estate a little bit here. I'm not sure what topic he's got today. Many of you know Matt Sorensen, the managing partner back in the home office of Cedar City, Utah for J Kohler, Ostermuller, and Sorensen. Matt, are you on the line?
I'm here, Mark.
Well,
we also call it
show.
KKOS lawyers now, just so you know.
Did I say KKO? Was that a Freudian slip?
No, but we're going to do like a swear jar in the office for any time someone says KKO, and then, we'll have a drawing at like staff meeting and split the, give out the money with whoever draws out. But
I like it. Many of you may not. I like it. Many of you may not know our home office, where all the work really gets done with our incredible team of paralegals, and in the tax team.